So how do you know if a business will fail? You take a look at the risk, but there are two distinct phases as an entrepreneur. First is before you actually commit to starting the business, you're in this exploratory phase. And the second is when you've actually launched your business and you're trying to grow and build. In phase one, you tend to receive way too much and often poor or irrelevant advice, especially if you're a younger person starting their first business. It's intimidating to start off with a great idea, be full of excitement, only to run and bring it up in a room full of older people who tell you that you need more experience. You're not ready to dive into the stresses that come along with entrepreneurship, or how you need this or that foundation to start with. It's more common than you think, even for seasoned entrepreneurs, to start a new venture feeling like, well, what if this fails? I'm completely done for. But you have to take a step back and realize that that's a very narrow lens. Even in failure, you're going to develop skills, you're going to gain experience, and you'll learn about yourself through a whole process of just starting a business. I started my first business at 19, and in hindsight, I don't think there is ever a better time to start something than as a young person. You go out for the first time with all of this energy and perseverance tied up in this little naive bow as you charge into the big bad world. The risks are usually very minimal since you have very little to lose. And as you get older, you take on more financial obligations. You may have children, you may have a family, and as a result, your risk of failure can become massive. And this is why so many people get trapped in the 9-to-5, because they have a responsibility to provide, obligations to maintain, and everything to lose. That's not to say that your children, your spouse, or your mortgage won't light a fire underneath you to succeed. But a lot of the time, you will end up starting a business on the side during this stage in life to keep your stability of your day job. There will always be risk, but younger people are told and even trained to play it safe. And I don't think that's necessarily good advice. Most people are waking up to the fact that a college degree over promised security became vastly overpriced and for the most part completely underdelivered. Now, the second phase, the one where you've already made this leap into building your business, that's typically the point of no return. You now know that you have to make this thing a success. You have no other options than to fall flat on your face and only take a learning experience from it. This is where you also realize how difficult it can be, which is why in phase one, you have this amazing cushion of naivety before taking the leap, because you can slam into a wall of rejection, whether it be from people who surround you or people that you're asking for investments from telling you that you're going to fail. Rejection in business is interesting. I don't think I've ever faced anything like it in my whole life. That's a special type of rejection feeling, and it's definitely a skill set that you develop when you're learning how to deal with it. Getting rejected when you make a pitch for a startup capital or a bank loan can be part of the process. It's totally normal, but it's important to know that whether you're starting or scaling your business, when the doubts or fears creep in about the skills that you could have developed outside of being an entrepreneur, the ones that say, I wish I would have worked for another company. I wish that I would have worked for someone within my niche, just to, whether it was a large company or a breakout company, just so that I had that skill development. But you need to remember that no, maybe in the thick of things right now, but this is exactly where I need to be. Right along with rejection, you have to balance acceptance, because when approaching entrepreneurship, it will be difficult. You will have setbacks. You will make mistakes and encounter failures, but that really is the best training you could possibly ask for. And when you're constantly looking at your business through these rose-tinted glasses and you never encounter failures along the way, you'll be less prepared for failures and setbacks at scale. And even worse, unable to pick yourself up and learn from it quickly and move on. The most valuable memories that I have from any of my businesses have been those times when my back was against a wall and I was on the cusp of failure, as in I will not have a business in 2 months' time. And I had no choice but to persevere. And in those moments, I have been willing to take more risks to avoid failure. In those times, you learn so much about yourself, your team, and what resilience really is, because you never know how deep that well is that you can draw from without those experiences. For instance, I once built an entire product launch around a specific bag that could be embroidered. I identified its niche, finalized the designs and colors, I gathered all the necessary packaging materials, and then I sent the samples to influencers and micro-influencers in my niche who created content around the product. Everything was ready, but just as I was about to place the fulfillment order, my manufacturer stopped offering the fabric that I selected. And with product photography and precise sizing already set, I had to scramble to find a more qualified manufacturer. My assistant and I had to work around the clock to find a replacement with the deadlines and the buyers waiting. This experience, though it was stressful, was invaluable in teaching the importance of adaptability and quick problem solving in business. In today's society, younger people are being told, hey, if you're too stressed, take on less stress. do nothing. And as a consequence of that, we're seeing fragility in society, and it poisons how young adults approach entrepreneurship. We need to be saying, learn how to cope with stress in healthy ways. Become resilient. Find out what makes you you. Find out who you are so you can take on more and that you can actually chase your dreams. Most small businesses will take one of two approaches. The first is lean and iterative. You can quickly test and launch products, all while making changes and testing markets by micro-influencing. It's one of my absolute favorites. You can zigzag your way to product market fit, and doing all of this while showing traction and learning to make changes quickly. You ultimately end up with something that people like, and then they buy, and then it becomes this business. That's the first category. Category 2 is a business that builds something complete, and it has to shoulder all of the upfront costs. I've been there as well, and this is one of the only businesses that when it's done being built, then people will buy it. So you take on all of this risk. It has a much higher failure rate. It's always worth knowing and being self-aware what type of business you're building. Once you have raised your first batch of capital, or if you're putting in your own investment into the business, the first thing you need to do is think about what you need to prove to get your second batch of capital. That should be number 1. Identifying these key milestones early on will guide your strategic planning and execution. To achieve these milestones and take your business to the next level, you have to build the right team. Whether you're starting by launching a new product or entering a new niche, you need people who are excited about doing the things that they've never done before, not scared. You don't need scared people. A team that thrives on innovation and embraces challenges will be instrumental in driving your business forward and securing your future investments. When thinking about the flow of your business, I always like to think about 2 levers. You have pace and you have control. And most of the time, they can be on opposite sides of the room. If you want your business to move really fast, what you need is for everyone in your business, even if that's just you at the moment, to make decisions on a daily basis. The more decisions that are getting made, the faster things will go. The more processes you have, the more departments that have to go through others. In this long chain of command, the slower things will go. It hinders the axis of immediate change in decision-making that needs to happen to properly catch waves of innovation and change. It lacks a quick pivot. Say every change that was made on a large business was made by one person. You would have a lot of control, but you wouldn't have a lot of pace. That makes us ask, well, what is the balance in between, and where do you find yourself based on your business? Well, typically, for most businesses, it's generally best for decisions to be made all of the time versus a single person making the decision. You have to think about if the decision will make a small impact or a large one, and whether the decision is a one-way door or a two-way door. So what's a one-way door decision? Well, it could be your key product launch. What are the capabilities or the key features that the product has? You only get to launch that thing one time. So that's a one-way door. A two-way door could be the pricing structure of something, a new product or a sale. You can change the price, you can pivot later, or if structure changes happen within an industry or a business model with other dealers, anything along those lines. It still matters, but getting it right isn't mandatory because there's no right. It's something fluid. A lot of decisions are two-way doors when at the time it may feel like they're one-way doors. It's always important to ask yourself if something is something big or if it's something little, if it's a one-way door or a two-way door. With one-way door decisions, big decisions, it's okay to spend more time on them. It's okay to become more involved into diving into the hows and the whys. What you want to avoid doing is finding yourself taking forever and diving into two-way doors that have small impacts, and suddenly you realize that you're micromanaging or all of your time is being eaten up by the things that are fluid and are much smaller in the grand scheme of things. When you're first starting out, you may not even have customers yet. You may just be figuring out what your business is, how it can serve your niche, and developing your products. You won't know who you are as an entrepreneur or a business person yet. You will probably, in the beginning, carry a bit of insecurity or imposter syndrome and feel as if most things surrounding your business are this existential threat. Asking yourself, can this work? Will people buy this? Are the things that people telling me right? Is this going to fail? All of that noise. It's in your mind, but it's very, very real, especially when you haven't proven anything yet. In the very first restaurant I opened, we were waiting on the final bathrooms to be installed. The painting was wrapping up, and I remember just having this feeling of overwhelming doubt. Even after all of the money and time had been poured out, we had the newest equipment in our kitchen, the support of the community, and I just couldn't shake the feeling of failure. Looking back, even knowing what I know now, I don't think anything but experience could have silenced my mind. But I can now look back years later and say there were a lot of things that when I initially had the drive and vision that I was right about. I am capable of doing this. I have had a lot of goals and hopes that were actually met. I say all of this to let you know that it's not that the challenges I face today in my business are smaller than the ones that I had 13 years ago when I was just starting out. In fact, they are much more impactful and more complicated. We have people that depend on us now, but the way that I feel now is very different because I can draw from those past experiences and I can move forward with the confidence and knowledge that I've developed through a whole set of skills that will allow me to navigate the issues that arise. That's why early challenges and building resilience is so important. Stay committed to what you know is right for your business. And as entrepreneurs, we tend to let what others say and think creep into our vision. You have a point of view in the world, so take it on.